So, I'm going to do a brief overview of data input in Redcap for the prevention of the pressure injury study. When you open Redcap, you'll come to this page, and on the far left is the Subjects tab. Click on that and it opens into what patients have enrolled in your site. The number here means 01 is the site, and in this case that's Nottingham, and 001 is the patient number. So that was the first patient recruited into the study. To add another patient, you go to the far right and click Add. This brings you through to the enrolment page. Select your site, add the participant initials. The screening date defaults to today's date but can be changed, and then instrument screening. This opens up a new page with the inclusion, exclusion, and the date of birth needed of the participant. So on a drop-down menu, complete their date of birth. And this auto-populates with how old they are. Then go through the inclusion, exclusion, just clicking on each one. If you make a mistake, just press reset and it zeroes again. Finally, confirm they're actually eligible for the study, add your signature, save and exit, and input your name. And the page defaults to today's date. Finally, if you mark instrument as complete, you can see in the background it said the subject qualifies for enrolment. Press save and exit, and you'll return to the enrolment page. Now you can get to the patients through either the subject matrix directly or clicking on the patient number. So if you click on the patient number, it pulls you through to the subject matrix, and you could see all the visits that potentially this patient could be involved with. And it will have also populated all the study dates on a calendar for the visits. So you can plan your workload. Go back to the subject matrix, and the first thing you really need to do is confirm the version of patient information sheet given and when it was given, and upload a copy of your informed consent. So if we click on that, it opens a form, and then you input the version number, the date given, and the patient information and consents are specific to the age derived from the date of birth you input at the beginning. Click Next, and it's the informed consent. Did you use a verbal patient information sheet? If you did, click Yes, and it'll ask you to upload a copy of that. If no, then it asks you to upload a copy of the parent and guardian consent form. Choose your file from your computer and confirm your name. And press Save. And then Return brings you back to the matrix, and you can see this is not, it's a see-through form, so it's not complete. It's not the tick like screening, and that's because I didn't upload a consent form. Visit 1 baseline. You click on it and it opens the forms. Go into each individual form and complete them. It asks for the date of the baseline visit, which defaults to today's date, but can, of course, be changed. The clinical area they were admitted into, reason for admission, and the date of their admission. You click Next, and it goes through to the demographics, which needs the weight, height, and sex. You can complete the percentile BMI using a link in the Redcap, but unfortunately this makes you leave Redcap and you have to physically backspace to get back in. You can use the link in the paper CRF as well to find this value out before you start your data input into Redcap. If they're less than 2 years old, the percentile is calculated using site-specific information. Now, if you try doing save and mark as complete, it will now flag at you that there are some validation errors because you haven't gone on to complete the underlying medical conditions form. Does the participant have any underlying medical conditions? If you click yes, then you need a diagnosis. The date of diagnosis, if you don't know the specific day, you can do unknown, but ideally we'd like the month and the year. Is this an ongoing medical condition that affects them presently as an inpatient? Then tick yes. If it's no, it'll ask for the end date. Save and mark as complete, and then press return. So the percentage completion now shows that you've completed 25%, which is 1 out of the 4 forms associated with this visit. Second form is universal to all the visits. The modified Braden QD. First question is, was the assessment actually undertaken? If the answer is no, then you need to document the reason for the non-compliance and inform the study monitor. It may be that we can rearrange the visit. If the answer is yes, then it automatically opens the form below. Again, it asks you where the participant was at the time of the assessment, and the date and time reverts to today's date and the present time. You will need to change the time at least, because it's the time of the assessment that needs to be noted. Put in the person who undertook the assessment, and then transcribe the data. It may be that you're doing this directly at the bedside, in which case the time obviously will be correct. But if you're taking it from the paper CRF, you will need to change it. And you just literally hover over and click each option all the way down and press next, and it goes through to the additional items. The acuity score at the top, if you're not quite sure what that means, there is a reference on the next page, which you can either do by pressing next, or you can just highlight the actual page itself and it will go to it by hovering over it. And this gives you the details of the different care levels. There's a drop-down list that corresponds to the same care levels. Highlight which one it is, and then complete the rest. Finally, there's a table here asking about local changes in skin color. If you say no, then that's that data complete. Yes, and a number of points open below it as to localized darkening, lightening, grey discoloration. You have to actually answer each one of these, otherwise you'll get a data query and it won't let you save it as complete. Save and mark as complete. Press return. And now you can see another tick. That's that completed and you're at 50%. The inter-rater assessment, you only need to complete 10 of these across all of your patients. Ideally, we want somebody to have done the inter-rater assessment who isn't entering the data, so there isn't a risk that they'll go in and look at the previously filled in modified Braden QD. You open this, it says, do you wish to complete an inter-rater assessment? If you say yes, it opens Braden QD, just the same as you just filled in, but this is the second repeat associated with the visit. If you say no, then that's that. Save and mark as complete. Press return. End of study completion and withdrawal is the final form. These three forms, modified Braden, inter-rater assessment, and the end of study, are basically what is in each visit. As you can see, the forms open for each visit. You click on it again and it closes them again, so it looks less confusing. We are only recording the pressure injuries encountered by the participant and their conmeds or medication, and any admissions to ITU other than the initial admission at the end of the study. You can complete the paper CRF as you're going along if the patient's in for a period of time, and then just upload all the information at the end when the patient has either left the study due to withdrawal or completed and been discharged home. End of study form is then only completed once. At other visits where they're still continuing in the study, you just say, no, they haven't withdrawn or completed. But for our purposes here, we're going to say yes. Was the participant admitted directly into ITU, their discharge date? So because this patient came into ITU, we now need a discharge date from ITU. Was the participant admitted or transferred into ITU as an inpatient? So did they go back to ITU again? If you say yes, it'll ask for their date admitted and discharged and the reason for their admission. For each subsequent admission, you can just press add and it adds rows. But we'll delete those for the moment. We don't need them. And say no. Next, concomitant medication. So this is a list of all the medication that the patient came in on and has been prescribed while they've been in hospital. We need to know the medication name, the dosage unit, which is the drop-down list, how it was administered, how often it was given, the reason for the medication, the start date, which again, if you don't know the exact day, you can write unknown, but we ideally want as much information as possible. If the medication is ongoing, and if it's not, when did they stop taking it? And you just add rows. I'm going to put that as no now, so as it goes. Development of a pressure injury. If they developed a pressure injury during their admission, we'd like you to code the pressure injuries. And that's done by the row number and the beginning of the start date. So I'll just show you with Row number 1 is an initial assessment, brand new pressure injury. Pressure injury start date, when was it reported? On the 19th of the 10th. So we're row 1, 1910. Reported grade, and there's a drop-down list. The site, in a free text. Suspected cause of the injury, a free text again. Any intervention or treatment, give as much detail as you can in that option, please. Like mattress, what version it was, if that's available in the notes at all. Were there any changes in grade or treatment of this pressure sore? Did anything change? Was it healed when they were discharged or withdrew from the study? If you say yes, you have to just go that way a bit, and you can see there's a date. If you say no, then the date isn't needed. If we say yes to changes, then we need to add another row. So if I just show you what I mean. So this is now a reassessment, it's not a new one. And the date of the original pressure injury was the 19th. But the change in pressure injury was the 20th. PI code. The original PI code is 1910. This one became worse. And it's the same pressure injury, so it's still in the heel, it's still due to pressure, and the intervention or treatment may have changed. If so, put a date in and what the new treatment is. Were there any changes in grade or treatment of this pressure injury? No, because they've actually been discharged, and it wasn't healed at discharge. Save and mark as complete. Validation errors are that you haven't then gone on to do the completion form. Has the participant been discharged? Yes. Now, this is really important that all data, click no on this, you don't want it to be erased or hidden, but all data in the present visit will be locked. So once you've completed the yes on this, that they've been discharged or that they've been withdrawn. So if you say no to discharge, it'll then ask you where they're withdrawn. And you say yes, and you get the same flag again. Why were they withdrawn? Was it withdrawn of consent or termination by the sponsor or any other reason at all? So if whatever the reason, if you fill in the reason and then the PI or yourself signs it, and date of what date they withdrew consent. Save and mark as complete, and you've missed the very important bit up here, which is a replication. Save and mark as complete. Press return, and that's it. You've completed it. Thank you very much for your time.